Hi everyone, welcome back to Lisa's Love and Light. Happy Wednesday to you guys. I hope everyone had a great day. Everything is going well. And if you didn't have a great day, make your evening better. Make it better by self-care and doing something that uplifts your spirit and that makes you feel happy. The key factor is self-care, guys. And be around people who make you laugh, make you smile, and bring out the best in you instead of the worst. So thank you for being here today. Here, it's about 6:35. So usually on Wednesday I have a crazy schedule, but I was able to get here now today. I'm really trying hard to do this time management and take things off my plate because the key goal for me is to get here Monday through Friday at a specific time. So it's taken longer than I wanted to, but I'm getting there, little by little. So I hope you guys had a great day. Let me know how these videos are helping you. Please feel free to comment. Make sure they're respectable, and subscribe to the channel, invite others here, and like these videos. So remember, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a social worker or a counselor, just someone who's going through a lot, and I talk about ways to overcome and to restore peace to your life so that you can live your life to the fullest and be happy, guys. So let's get into this. Oh, before I get into the discussion today, I want to discuss something very briefly before I get into the topic of discussion. The YouTube new policy, which I love. I love it, guys. When I first got on here, there was a lot of stuff going on. And when I say stuff, when you get, when you start to, get more views and get more subscribers, and you start to consistently show up, sometimes you get haters watching you. And I think what was happening at some point, not just, myself, but what other people who I've spoken to who have channels, is that, people start reporting their content. There's nothing wrong with their content. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not saying anything wrong. They're speaking about specific topics and how they were affected and etc. And because someone doesn't like it, they go and report the channel and, say things that are happening that's not happening at all. So, guys, YouTube came up with this new thing. What they do now is after you, do your video, whether you're uploading the video or if you go live, they first have a system that reviews everything on your video. And then at the end, it tells you no problems were found. And then you can go ahead, upload your video, or they will go ahead and post your content after that message shows up. So that's a good thing, because people were reporting other people's stuff and saying things that were never going on and etc. and so forth. So now they came up with that, where they look at the content before it's even posted. So when someone says A, B, C, and D, they already looked at the content and know that it's not the case. So that's a good thing. So I like that improvement. So now let's get into this topic of discussion. It is called putting the pieces together. Putting the pieces together. Here's one key factor about putting the pieces together in your life. Find what fits and let it flow. Find what fits and let it flow. I'm going to give you guys an example. I like to use metaphors about different things and situations. A metaphor of putting pieces together from a box of puzzle. When you get a box, right, full of 1,000 puzzle pieces, and you turn that box upside down, you don't know what that picture is going to be. You don't know the end result until you start putting the pieces together. And when you see one or two pieces doesn't fit, you put it to the side and go to another one until you find those pieces that fit. And as you continue to work day in, day out to put the pieces together to that puzzle, you start to see what the background picture is. And you start to see what it is. You see the clarity of it. That's how life is, putting pieces of the puzzle together. Life is a journey. It never comes with a book of instructions on how to do this, how to do that. It does come with lessons, hard lessons. And we learn to survive by learning hard lessons, pain, etc. I know I have. And then I just kept saying, why am I repeating these lessons over and over again? The same people, the same situation, same abuse, same toxicity. But, pain will teach you lessons. And especially when it gets worse and worse. You will learn from it one way or the other. I know I have. And it took me 1,000 lessons, but I learned. And then I was able to see the clarity of what I was doing wrong. And then I was able to change it and put the correct piece of the puzzle there and close the door to what that situation was, so I don't have to repeat it anymore. Never repeat these lessons, guys. From my own personal experience, when you repeat these lessons, they so bad. They get so worse and worse, and the pain gets worse. And I can tell you I have pain that will, that can last 2 or 3 lifetimes. Some of us have to, unfortunately, play the cards that life has dealt us. And I used to wonder about this. I always wonder why some people have a really good life and things go well with them and etc. and so forth. I have some notes today. And why other people get the crap. It's like getting a short end of the stick with all the problems in the situation. They end up having an extremely difficult life with all these problems and situations. But let me tell you guys, what I learned so far about this is that what does not destroy you will make you stronger than ever. Because lessons will teach you, certain things. And once you learn them, hey, you never want to go back to the pain. We can rise above these difficulties, abuse, and hate by closing the door for what is not for our highest good. Sometimes we leave those doors open too long, like myself, and then it just feels like getting knocked upside your head over and over and over again because you're not learning the lessons. But once, the pain gets to be excruciating, then you say, hey, I can't repeat this. What am I doing wrong? You sit down and say, what am I doing wrong here? Why is this happening? Sometimes it's not just the people, it's the lesson that we didn't learn. And then it comes back around, different folks, different scenario, but same lesson until we learn it. I'm always talking about that because I had to repeat so many times. Negative choices can create a difficult life. Definitely, negative situations can create difficulties in our life. When we remove the noise, we can reduce the difficulties. And when I say noise, I'm talking about the toxic situations and people and abuse and etc. Once we sit down and say, hey, no more, and we decide that we don't want this anymore, and we can reduce the difficulties in our life. When you reduce the difficulties, you gain clarity and a new perspective of resolutions, how to resolve things. I had to close many doors that was disturbing my peace, And when I started to feel that peace, I never want to feel pain again, guys, because I felt so much of it the first half of my life. But in a way, it was my fault because I wasn't learning the lesson. I was just letting people come in and do whatever. Stay in prayer with God, asking him to help you see the clarity and which doors to close and which doors to leave open. My problem was entering catch-22 situations that I did not sign up for. Before you sign on a dotted line, read the fine print, guys. And when we talk about not just business situations, but when you talk about relationships, in a way that is contract. It may not be one that you sign on a dotted line, but it's a situation, that you get into. And sometimes when you don't look at the whole situation, then you find yourself in a catch-22. Broken promises with broken results. More pain and then more healing. More time, you know? Deal breakers. Situations that you don't want, that you didn't sign up for. But if we would take our time, get to know the situation and a person, then perhaps we can reduce the catch-22 situations. That's what I'm learning in life. There was a time, especially, after I had a while back dated someone for about 7 months, and, thought I was taking my time, whatever. And there was a catch-22 situation that was so devastating and painful. It was definitely a deal breaker, because had I known about it, I would have never entered into that situation. But it was a lesson for me, because the pain taught me after I healed to take my time with situations, whether it's a business situation or a relationship or just building up friendship with people. Get to know who and what you're dealing with, God is definitely, guys, giving me more clarity in situations today as I use my intuition. And speaking of that, I had a situation earlier today, a business situation that really pissed me off, because the person in question tried to put me into a catch-22 situation, and I already saw it, and we're going back and forth. And then when I said no to this, they tried to put me in a chokehold of a situation. Well, if you don't say yes to this, this is the outcome of that. And I said, well, I'm going to twist it around like this and make sure that outcome doesn't happen, because I don't want this situation. So do what you need to do. I'm not signing on a dotted line. I don't want that situation. I already see what it's going to lead to, and no thank you. And a person in question was shocked about that, because most people would have. The old version of myself would have jumped on it, because it looks so good, it looks so promising. But if you continue to look at the situation down the line, you see the catch-22, that it's not a good situation, because that situation would have taken away a little bit of my freedom, and probably would have brought some stress to my life that I don't want. So I saw that and I said, no thank you. And then the person, well, blah blah, okay, fine, let that happen, but I'm going over here. I'm not dealing with that. Thank you, and have a great day. And the old me, and I'm proud of myself for that, because the old me would have fell for that. Many people would, because it had so many things that I did want, but the stuff that I didn't want outweighed what was there, so I had to say no. And that's how I do situations today, whether it's a business situation or just dating, and I'm not talking about, we all have faults and stuff like that. I'm talking about things that are deal breakers. I'm not talking about, oh, you left toothpaste in the sink or something minor. I'm talking about deal breaker situations, and I had to just end that conversation. The new me knows better. Everything that glitters, guys, know this is not gold. Everything that glitters is definitely not gold. So please look at things more closely, so that you can gain a clarity before you get yourself into a catch-22 situation. And some of these situations are very difficult to get out of. And as I heal, I choose peace, and not just peace, but to have more time to myself. Like I talked to you guys about that, because it helps your mental and physical health. It helps you to rejuvenate. When you always working, jumping, skipping, and hopping and doing things, and you don't have time for yourself, you start to feel overwhelmed. Maybe have you found yourself in situations where you're just getting irritated easily and blah, blah? Perhaps you need more time for yourself. Take 2 hours for you, for self-care. It's so important today with all this toxicity going on in the world, When you take time for yourself, and you do things that's for your highest good, and you close doors to tune out the noise and the drama and toxicity, your health improves. You start to feel better. You feel better, you do better. At first, it may hurt and stuff, when I had to close all these different doors, but people were bringing a lot of toxicity and drama to my front door, and I had to close it. First, I had to set those boundaries. And when people were like, girl, please, or whatever, disrespectfully, I had to close those doors, cut off, block, and delete with no contact whatsoever. And sometimes that's the case, unfortunately. But find out what fits your life and embrace it. It's so important, guys, to do that, because otherwise, if you just allow people only do, and circumstances do what you allow. If we sit back and allow it, it's going to happen. And it's going to keep happening over and over again. And then you get to the point, why is A, B, and C doing this, and E, F, and G? Because we are allowing it. People can't do what we don't allow. That's why it's important to set those strong boundaries, so that you can live your life and you can have that self-care. And when you self-care, you feel better. You see things with clarity than making decisions because you're pumped up with stress or whatever. So take care of yourself, guys, daily. Don't let anybody talk you out of doing that, because your mental and physical health will suffer if you don't take care of yourself. And then if your mental and physical health is not okay, you're not okay, and you can't help yourself or anybody or anything else around you. So sit down, take a deep breath, put the pieces together, just like a puzzle, little by little. And I promise you, as you do that, asking God to help you and to show you the clarity, you will see the picture within. You will see your life get better. You will be happier, at peace. It is always better, guys, remember, to be at a place of peace than to be broken down into pieces. That's the message today. Thank you for stopping by. Share these messages with other people. Really share the messages, because some people need to hear these things. They're not vocal or verbally communicating, but they really get uplifted by these messages. I've had a few people contact me and tell me how these messages are helping them. So share these videos, subscribe to the channel, invite others to do the same. Let's get this going and keep this going, especially in the world we live in today. Thank you for being here. This is Lisa, shedding love and light. You guys have a great evening. Do something for yourself, and I'll see you sometime tomorrow. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said, right now I don't have a set time, but in the future I plan to. And thank you for supporting the channel. It really means a lot. Have a great night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.